Welcome to another episode of 10x Marketer podcast. Today we have Hamid with us. He has done some great work in semantic SEO, and we would be discussing some important and practical SEO strategies around building the topical map, improving the semantics of your website, and also improve your search engine ranking. If you're coming here for the first time, make sure you subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify, wherever you're listening from. We are available on all three podcast channels. So, welcome, Hamid.
So thanks for inviting me. Okay, so my name is Muhammad Hamid Khan, and I'm from Lahore, Pakistan, a city famous for its quality music. And I started SEO back in 2015, and I've worked with many companies as a full-time employee and helped achieving their growth numbers. And I've worked with many big brands like Hire, like big SaaS companies like Mailmunch, and some multi-million dollar e-com brand as well. But after you can say like 2019, I've started learning about semantics and how search engine works, and my that kind of interest and passion turned into my you can say I'm now you can say working in semantic SEO. So I'm like inspired by Bill Slaskate and Corey Tukbugur, and I've the framework introduced by Corey, mainly I've worked on that. And right now I'm working with some high ticket clients and helping them achieving their growth numbers and building their topical authority, and by providing services like topical maps, semantic briefs, and content writing services. So this is what I do, and yeah, so far.
So, Hamid, you're quite known for the semantic SEO work that you have been doing. Why don't you quickly define for my audience what is semantic SEO and how does it work?
All right. So first of all, I would like to thank all of the people who've been like following me on my socials and giving me the like kind of affection. So I'm very happy to have such community like that. And okay, so for a newbie, semantic SEO is, you can say, an approach, or you can say some smart way to achieve higher rankings by understanding the main challenges of a search engine and helping or understanding the SEO from more search engine perspective, and aligning all the activities around that specific search engine challenges and problems. So basically, let me interpret it further. When it comes to SEO or website management, what we have to do, we publish a specific type of content network around a specific type of query network, targeting query network, in order to achieve the topical authority state. And topical authority state works differently for different knowledge domains. Like for example, there's knowledge domain like health, like some supplements knowledge domain, some more like food. So we beat the competition, right? And we publish more semantically optimized content network, and more, you can say, relevant, with relevant and accurate information, or in simple words, high quality information content network. So machine can understand our content in a more faster and cheaper way and serve the content to its user to satisfy the need. Simply, need is basically the query. So this is what we do in semantics. This is basically a process or approach of publishing a very high quality semantic content network.
Okay, so my next question is how is different from the traditional SEO approach that we have been using so far?
Okay, so it's a quite, I think, relevant thing. I mean, most of the people are like still, uh, I mean, they're saying that the semantics working on the same approach that been introduced uh, even like the before the years, for example, and it's like working on the same methodology by just changing the names of the terminologies or the process names. So I think I should clear here right now. Semantics is basically uh, more more tend, or you can say, towards understanding the behavior of the users from search engines point of view. This all study we say in semantics is query semantics, to understand how your users behave or search specific terms or around specific outcomes on Google, and we pivot that specific outcome and then connect all the contexts, verbs or behaviors or attributes or queries around that specific topic or outcome, and then we map everything together. But in traditional SEO, like I've been also doing traditional SEO before, and what traditional SEO, one main thing that separates traditional SEO is traditional SEO mainly focus on the quantity. I mean, like the experts tend to claim that if you publish like more articles, if you create more backlinks, if your article length is more in terms of words, or if you put more links, or if you put more keywords, more headings, then you will be ranking better. But this is not the case in semantics. In simple words, a search engine, you have to be more qualitative than your competitors, not in terms of the numbers but in terms of the quality. And search engines prefer, or search engine calculates the cost first in order to rank a specific type of query network or specific type of knowledge domain. So you have to prioritize what matters for search engine instead of what matters for you, basically. So this is the main difference. And in one short example, I would like to give you. For example, if you're like publishing a page, you are in normally like in traditional SEO, what people do, they simply copy what already been the top competitors are doing in terms of they export their keywords, their headings, and they just within that circle, within that bubble, they do everything around that specific competitors. But in semantics, what we do, we reinvent the wheel. We follow everything, the knowledge coming from Google patents. We basically, and if we have like understood how search engines operate, like the crawling, not just from crawling, indexing, how they have stored the knowledge, is how they are representing the information, then from that perspective we figure out what matters for search engine. And competitors, looking at the competitors for authority hacking, that's just a part of semantic SEO.
Okay, so I think that answers this question. Now, let's say if someone wants to build a topical authority for their website, what is the first thing they have to do? What is the starting point? Can you explain the process, maybe in a step by step guide kind of situation?
All right. So topical authority, building topical authorities basically starts with understanding the current situation of the website. For example, let's say a website is 10 years old, right? And a website is starting from scratch. At In both cases, what we normally try to do to find a specific entity that we will be using or will be creating a content network in the future. For example, if a website that is like 10-year old and has like published around 2000 pages, what we try to figure out from the existing data, the historical data, maybe from the search console, in simple words, we try to check that, okay, what the main queries or the main attributes or the main entities Google is ranking this website against. So for an old website, we try to uh, get our hands dirty and figure out what will be like the future entity around which the topical map will be built. So first step is always creating a topical map. So topical map is basically a list of concepts or contexts, you can say, not just list of keywords with their volume like in traditional SEO, is a list of concepts or contexts that are centered around a central entity and prioritized by different types of attributes. And it has, in simple words, a core section and outer section, and more components. It has like a topical map has like a central entity around which the topical map will be built, and a source context, then central search intent, and then the core section and outer section. This is normally a topical map consists of. So the topical map is the first step when going for achieving the topical authority state. And after the topical map is built, we prioritize, okay, this chunk of topic, like 50, if you have like 500 pages, you're going to publish, you prioritize, okay, these 20 or 30 needs to be published first because they are targeting a specific type of query template or attribute or specific type of behavior or context, for example. And you publish your topical maps in chunk. And for publishing, definitely for each page you create semantics briefs. That's another chapter in semantic SEO, long practical thing. And by the way, I've been publishing some videos, recording some videos on this as well. And then after creating the briefs, we normally write content based on semantics. So that's another a very long C, basically, you can say, in terms of information. So yeah, so this is a short roadmap for achieving the topical authority set. And once all things are like published, like the first 20-30 pages are published on the website, you wait for a certain type of you can say some time to help Google come your site in the first crawl and understand, and then put your website in some type of testing phase, and then give you assign you the topical authority state around a certain type of query network for a certain amount of time after beating a certain type of, for example, website.
All right. So my next question is around the topical authority or the topical map itself. Like when you say there is a traditional keyword research and then there is topical research, how both the things are different from each other, and when you are building or when you are searching for a topical map, how do you really research on the competitors?
Mhm.
Because you are suggesting the traditional way of researching like the keyword and volume is not so important for semantic SEO, right?
I think there's some type of certainty or importance for volume in semantics, like the search demand we normally say, because we have to prioritize search demand definitely. But making our decisions all around that specific type of metric, which is volume, is not always give you the whole picture or whole outcome that you want to achieve. Yeah, so getting back to your question, how to build a topical map and how it differs from different, for example, how it differs from traditional keyword research, and how to incorporate competitor research in building a topical map. So as I mentioned, first I explained, like, for people, like what traditional keyword research normally means. It's simply about searching your main seed phrase on tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs, and exporting all the data which tool has, not what is like actually being searched. Tool not has like all kind of data that user is searching. Tool has some specific type of data. Okay, so it's like just using some certain third party tools and relying on those tools in terms of the phrases that maybe your competitors are targeting, or maybe that tool's database has. And you just export those things, and you just maybe prioritize, okay, this based on this volume you have to publish this, and then this, without any symmetric approach, without any synchronous, without any, for example, holistic approach. You just go left and right, and without any, for example, thematic approach for machines. But in semantics, what we do normally is, one more time I would say, you pick a central entity, and then around that central entity you capture all the behaviors of the users, of your target users, around your central entity. So before target users, basically you figure out your TAM, target uh, addressable market, and then you figure out your buyer personas, your ICPs, and from those, after deep diving into your customer research, definitely, then you figure out what these customers might be searching on Google in terms of the, for example, attributes, in terms of the context or verbs, for example, right? Let me give you example. I think to make my things more aligned with the users mind. So basically I would like to give an example here. For example, if you are like if your source context is about renting chairs, you're like just renting chairs for specific type of events, right? And which means that your users renting here is the verb or the behavior around that specific outcome, which is chair. So chair is an outcome or entity. There might be different behaviors like selling, buying, renting, inquiring, comparing, purchasing, or simply exploring, learning. Everything might be associated, all these behaviors might be associated with the chair. So you have to figure out what your ideal customer, what behaviors or what verbs he might be searching on Google. Then you connect your research with those verbs or behaviors. Okay, so you figure out, okay, these five, that's basically a normal thing in a central search intent, what a central search intent normally does. So you figure out all those behaviors, then you connect the competitor research and connect with those behaviors, not just you follow what everything your competitors are doing. Okay, and then you figure out from query semantics perspective, from search engines perspective, okay, these behaviors, activities users might be performing. Then from language perspective, like lexical relations, you figure out that as well. And in simple words, this is, I mean, normally topical map takes like 15 to 20 days, sometimes more. So it's a very long and lengthy process. So this is how we create a topical map, and then we filter it further based on attribute prominence, relevance, and popularity, and lot more criterias based on the business overall objective.
Okay, so once you have the topical map, what is the next step for you?
So topical map is ready maybe for a client I've been working for, like I've created a topical map. Next I'll ask the client, okay, what is your main priority section of the topical map? Maybe you want to go with specific, for example, I normally give this type of example that if client is selling, for example, car paint, right? Car paint, this is the source context, selling car paint. And definitely he will figure out the most closest entity related to his source context. So car would be, maybe you can say, the more most closest entity. Okay, so he's built, he's chosen car as an central entity. Then there might be some different attributes for car, like car tires, car engine, car lights, and car maintenance, car history, car brands, etc., etc., for example, and car paints, obviously. So if I build topical map, for example, and covering all these attributes, and maybe based on the client suggestion, we'll prioritize first the car paint attribute, because that's more related to the business model or source context of what client is offering. So we'll, first of all, we decide which specific type of section or attribute we need to go first. Then the next step is to create brief documents. And when it comes to brief document, we try to decide, in order to saving cost and time, and obviously helping Google more understanding the information what the semantic content network is about, we go for query templates. And the good thing about query templates is we can create a specific type of brief template, document template. Like for example, if a document might be like best car paint uh, for X brand, right? Or you can say there's Audi is the model, right? And there's Audi is the brand, for example, and there are like different models in Audi, right? So what we can do is we create a specific document, brief document around all those models that are coming in Audi brand, like best car paint for X Audi model, best car paint for Y Audi model, best car paint for Z Audi model. This is how we can save our time and create a document template. And first of all, this is how we, what we decide, and then we create unique brief templates as well, like the root document that obviously needs to go, like for example, car paint, or anything that your root is. So then we create like briefs, and after creating briefs, we definitely go with content creation.
Okay, so What is the content creation process in semantic SEO and how is it different from the traditional one? Do you first analyze the content that is already there on the website and start by improving it, or just start creating the new content straight away?
I first, as I mentioned, what normally I do, instead of like saying client, okay, we need to build this, we need to build this, we need to build XYZ, I, apart from everything, on top of everything, first of all, I audit the existing site. I figure out what needs to be done in order to get the recovery state of that. For example, if the site is old, most of the cases clients come to me, okay, they say website has a lot of like traffic in the past, maybe 1 year back, and now the traffic is down due to some maybe algorithmic uptake or something like that. So I figure out what is the best solution for the website. So in terms of if a website has pages published, we try to figure out with content configuration, and we like update the existing content, and we align the new topical map that will be building on new semantic content network with the existing pages that are already published. We try to connect those, because without bridging the information, without bridging the context with each other, without the proper flow, Google won't be able to understand your site in a better way. So we try to bridge information, and then basically I figured out, for example, in terms of the content audit as well, the technical SEO audit as well. In content audit, we figure out, okay, which pages needs to be deleted, and that's another chapter, how we decide which pages needs to be updated or refreshed in terms of the information or media and everything, and which pages needs to be merged or consolidated together and have been like added through redirects 301, and which pages that needs to be leave as it is, for example. So these four things I figure out, and then based on those things, the pages that needs update, we do content configuration for those pages, like simply without diluting the existing page rank or the authority or the topical relevance or the contextual coverage or the context vector that been targeted on that specific page. We try to keep that thing intact, and we try to improve the existing document in terms of all the behaviors activities that we have been searching before. Okay, and one thing is content configuration, and then one thing is publishing new documents that are like introduced in our topical map. So in terms of content writing, getting back to your question, like content creation is, now we figure out, okay, objective, first of all, what's the main objective of the page, then we figure out what is the macro context of that document and what are the micro contexts, for example, of that specific document. And then we create and definitely the briefs template, which is ready, which is now ready from the SU side. The writers are being trained properly on semantics and on those briefs, how to cover that brief, how to write based on that briefs. So in simple words, let me give you couple of ingredients that we focus on in a semantic content. Number one is, from a machine perspective, we try to do everything responsive. The information needs to be responsive for machine, and information responsiveness is a concept basically. It's coming from Google patents. For example, information retrieval, information extraction basically is an, you can say, an important concept coming from information retrieval, and information extraction is like extracting information around a specific subject or within a corpus. So basically, information responsiveness is basically we make our information responsive for machines, and there are like multiple factors that come into information responsiveness. For example, the accuracy of your information, the completeness of your information, the uniqueness of your information, and for example, the reputation of your information, and for example, the accessibility of your information, and for example, you make your information responsive around a specific subject for machines to read your document, and within spending less cost, understand more context or meanings or extract more information from your document. And then uh, instead of like, for example, reading the whole document, you should be able to help machine to understand your document in a very faster and cheaper way as compared to your competitors or your search documents that are ranking, for example, you're trying to beat. So information responsiveness is the one key component, and one other thing we basically focus on semantic triples in our content, like entity attribute value. Okay, this is the entity and this is its attribute and this is the value. And we it's all about helping machine to understand, like a child, 5 year old child, for example. Okay, this entity and this attribute has this value. We create all the pairs of that things, and then we do question answer pairing, like a passage indexing, Google patent concept coming from passage ranking, coming from Google patent. And the passage is indexing, that's been normally what Google is doing. You search a question, it pair a specific answer and rank on the feature snippet on top of everything on zero search result, for example. So what we try to do in our content, we optimize, we create question answers pairs. First of all, we extract, for example, we get the seed query, we turn those seed queries into questions format, and those question format we create answer pair for those question format, and then we try to rank those on machines. So again, this is going very technical and deep, and by the way, I've created a complete roadmap or system, like to train a new person from language point of view on all these methodologies in order to write a better content based on semantic perspective. So I think this is the whole overview of everything.
Okay, so the other question is mostly see, semantic SEO is slightly technical as compared to the traditional form of SEO or content creation.
Yeah, it is.
And for any industry, the content is created by a subject matter expert, which most of the time is not the technical SEO or semantic SEO expert. So, how do you create a content brief that explains everything in the simplest possible form for any person who is writing the content for you?
I think before working on a project, I've, like, by the way, created an SOPs. Like, first of all, we get the SMEs introduced as well. Sometimes the already customer research that been done by the brand, we figure out almost the first 2 3 days. We understand, or simply learn about the specific topic. I mean, again, some topics like for example medicine topics, some, for example, topics like that has something to do with, yeah, like your money, your life topics, for example. I mean, first of all, my priority is to find SMEs, subject matter experts, and train them based on the semantics framework. And the good thing, most of the time, normally what clients, they already have a team, something like that. They understand the business from its core, or the knowledge domain they've been working on. I mean, I just train those people who already has a business knowledge, had good understanding of the uh, or the specifications of the business or the industry. I just train them and they would be able to write that kind of content, right? So 50% of the job is done in terms of the information. Now the semantics or the optimization they learn and they simply able to write content. But for a newbie, that's the real challenge comes in. They know the semantics, they know the rules, but they don't have that kind of idea. So for that, we have we what we do, we try to um find some research papers, find some courses maybe from LinkedIn Learning, and find some more authoritative websites that are publishing good content or some authoritative factual information around that specific industry. We try to read those information first of all. Again, the mainly the writers who gonna write the content, and then after a week of training, then, and definitely they have already the training of semantics and the frameworks approach, they just get trained on the business model or the simply the industry they've been going to write content for, and then it's a win-win situation. So again, it's still challenge. We try to review the content back and forth from the client sometimes as well, to understand if it's aligned in terms of the business information, because semantics, it's obviously aligned and client don't know very much about is it aligned for semantic. So this is I think a go-to approach in terms of aligning the semantics work with the facts or with the client's objective, for example.
So, Hamid, my next question is related to the semantic SEO is what mistakes do you see people usually make when they create a topical map, and how they can avoid that?
Yeah, related to mistakes. First of all, I was also struggling with those things. Number one is to prioritize what matters for a website based on the current situation or the objectives of the client, in terms of, like, for example, creating topical map, which is obviously the first component of like semantic content network. So they try to like they struggle most of the time, most of the semantics people who are like just learning or implementing semantic SEO, they struggle based on the objective, what really they have to research or publish in terms of content and whatnot. So that comes in prioritization. Before prioritization, researching information, I think researching information is another thing, by the way. The main problem here is they have all kind of, for example, knowledge bases in terms of the information on their, for example, simply in Google Sheet, like 30,000, 40,000 contexts or concepts are there around specific entity. Because entity could be bigger, there would be more context. If entity could be smaller, there would be less context. The next thing is which specific context they need to associate on the website and publish first, and which not. And then the prioritization one more time. So this is the main mistakes, or you can say the challenge I've been observing. And now the solution is simply, you first decide your objective, whether you want to, if you are like, for example, a news site, or if you are like, on the other hand, one site is basically selling a specific type of service, right, or product. So you align the topics with your objective. If you just want more traffic or historical data, or and you have a news site, definitely you can go with everything, but then you prioritize the most prominent attributes first. I mean, that define the important definitions of an entity. Other than, on the other hand, if your source context is about selling a specific, if you have a proper source context, like you're selling something or offering some consultancy, anything, you prioritize from business perspective. Okay, this topic needs to be published first, or this documents needs to be published first. So this is the solution basically. And on specific example, we can maybe see if and else statement, something like that. And the other mistake, which is very, I guess, important here to address, is people focus on macro semantics too much. And let me put a condition here. For example, if a subject is very, has not a lot of content, like around 1,000 contexts are there only, for example, almost all of the competitors have covered the things that been present currently in that specific type of subject. You cannot maybe differentiate a lot in terms of macro semantics. Your topics will be almost 80 or 70% will be overlapping with your competitor's topical coverage. In that case, what mostly people miss is the microsemantics. The microsemantics mainly actually helps you to rank your content network by playing with each and every byte, pixel, each and every word. You configure everything together, and that overall contributes to the overall success of a semantic content network, or the outcome you want to achieve. So microsemantics is the real game changer that mostly people are missing. So these two things, I think, are the main challenges of the problem or mistakes people making currently.
Okay, so my next question is, let's say somebody is just starting with the semantic SEO. They have no prior knowledge, or they may have worked to some extent in the traditional SEO approach. What would be your advice? Where should they start from? What should be their next steps? Can you outline a journey for them?
Mhm. Yeah, if I consider myself, I'm just starting, and based on my experience, definitely I will try to uh, map a picture for a newbie. Actually, there are multiple disciplines that connect, that if you connect everything, those discipline together, then you can be a semantic SEO expert. I mean, And the main thing come here is understanding the search engines, number one thing. So you have to, at any cost, first of all, you have to understand how search engines work or how search works. For that, you can deep dive into Google even own guidelines, Google Search Central, for example, understanding how what Google's documentation is saying. Obviously, I'm not saying you should only read that. That's a good starting point. Understanding the Google own documentation and some important Google patents, like not patents, some guidelines as well, some documents like Google quality data guidelines, some more like on information retrieval, some more like query parsing, for example. You understand these kind of things, and after that you can maybe start with some linguistics and like language, how language works, because language plays a very important or pivoted role in semantics. So language or linguistics is one of the most important component. And in language or in linguistics, we have like NLP, we have like computational linguistics, we have to like then understand those how those NLPs and languages working together, how simply uh, machine extract meaning from a text written by a human. This is the like real challenge which for a machine. So basically, if you figure out what is, for example, what are the main challenges for a machine to uh, in understanding those texts, then you can maybe make your strategy better. And then there are more things like LLM, large language models. You have to understand those. Once you got the basics, then you go to some semantic SEO proper channel, like maybe it's like holistic SEO digital. The course, I would highly recommend the course launched by Core. First you read his case studies, watch his YouTube videos, and understand what are the basics. Then you go for the paid course as well. And these learning sources and experts, the industry leaders, who are also helping the community in grabbing or grasping the information around semantic, you can follow those as well. So this is a good roadmap for anyone who's just starting.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Hamid, for joining us and sharing such a valuable knowledge with our audience. We would look forward to have you again in future if possible. Thanks once again.
Thank you for joining, and